How is Cyberpunk after 5 years? I gotta confess, I haven't played Cyberpunk 2077 up until recently, because at the time I didn't have a powerful enough PC, and because of the state of the game on its release. So I've watched the playthrough and I was satisfied. But watching a game and playing a game are two different things. So recently I decided to check out how the game is holding up, if it got fixed and stuff like that. And after getting to play the game, I made it my mission to make a video and tell everyone that they have to play this game. If you're like me and gave it a pass at the time, you are missing out. Now, to be frank, the game still to this day has some bugs. Yes, which is sad, but what the game offers is worth it. So what the game offers? The game is literally GTA 6. The only difference is that it is already released. And frankly, I don't know if the actual GTA 6 will be able to top Cyberpunk. Yes, you heard me right. Now, this topic deserves a separate video, but for now I just want to say that I'm blown away by Cyberpunk, and I can't wait for Cyberpunk 2, Cyberpunk 2078 or whatever it will be called. And it is coming from me, the guy that actually dislikes the Cyberpunk aesthetic. Yes, the gangs on the streets, the dirt, people getting scrapped for parts and stuff like that. Yeah, that's not my thing. But in Cyberpunk 2077 it doesn't matter because the game is that good. And now let me tell you about the pros of the game. Then we will talk about the cons. Yes, even though not huge, the game has some cons too. Now, to begin with, let's talk about how the game lets you roleplay in terms of gameplay. How many playstyles the game offers. Some people think that the game is a first-person shooter, and even though you can play the game that way, in reality this is probably the most boring playstyle that you can roleplay, because a lot of games are first-person shooters, but Cyberpunk lets you play far more creative. Let me paint you a picture how I played the game. First and foremost, I also tried to play the game as a first-person shooter. I took some submachine guns and assault rifles. Then I played the Johnny Silverhand Memory. I liked it and decided to play with pistols. Then I had some missions where they would take away my guns. So I decided that it would be cool to remain deadly even without guns. So I installed the Mantis blades in my forearms. After that I discovered a shop that sells quick hacks. So I discovered that I can make enemies enter cyberpsychosis, or to self-eliminate, or to knock them out remotely. And that's how I started my netrunning career. This also allowed me to feel deadly without weapons. That's actually my favorite thing in games, when the game allows you to be deadly without weapons. I had it in Baldur's Gate 3 being a monk, I had it in Skyrim being a mage, and in Cyberpunk being a netrunner. Now I digress. So later I picked up some gigs where I needed to be silent, and I didn't have a strong enough pistol with a silencer, but I picked up a throwing knife. And it turns out that throwing knives can one-shot enemies if you do a headshot. And that's how my throwing weapons life began. A little bit later I had an affair with Meredith Trout, and I picked up a unique weapon in her room. A club to be precise that was shaped rather peculiar. If you know, you know. At first I didn't think I would use it, but reading the description of the item I realized that it is a weapon that not only deals physical damage, but also
emotional damage.
And then, finally, after defeating Oda, I got his katana, and that's how my katana playstyle began. So, why am I telling you this? The point of this is to describe how diverse Cyberpunk is in playstyles and how all of them are fun to use. It is probably the first ever game that I played that made me want to try all of those interesting and unique weapons and mechanics. And all of this in one playthrough. Usually games like The Elder Scrolls, The Witcher, Baldur's Gate, Elden Ring, you name it, are restraining you and cage you within your build. So you can only use one build, and you need to respect your points to have a different playstyle. It is not the case in Cyberpunk. I could mix all of those playstyles as I want. This is great, and that's what more games need to do. There are not a lot of games that do this. Now, partially it is because games sorta don't want you to be overpowered, and they are afraid to give you too much powers. I explored this topic in my Games Forgot to Be Fun video. I recommend you to check it out. And while you're at it, leave a like to your favorite croissant and subscribe to the channel. That will help the channel a lot. Thank you. Now let's move on. Now, in general, I can say that I like the gameplay a lot. I like the freedom that the game provides. When the cops are after you, you can hack their cars and pull the emergency brake. Or sometimes the gangs want revenge on you, and they're trying to ambush you on the road. So I like to detonate their cars remotely. I like the multi-layered levels of the game. How, for example, you get a gig where you need to infiltrate a building, and you have a lot of options how to do it. You need to find a way through the roof, for example, where you need a double jump implant. Or there are doors that you can force open them if you got enough strength points. Or there are terminals where you can hack your way in. I like that, this freedom that the game provides. I liked when I had a gig to eliminate a target, and I did it without even entering the building. I was in a car outside and I hacked my way in through cameras and made the target self-eliminate. The point is that the game lets you have fun while playing it. So in short, the gameplay in Cyberpunk is great. Now, about the plot, the lore and the characters. Again, everything is great. I love almost all the characters. By the way, I want to make a video about top video game betrayals, and there are 4 betrayals from Cyberpunk. So about characters, in Cyberpunk, we have them of all kinds. Good and bad, jerks and friends. They're all memorable and unique. The lore of the game is also very interesting and filled with mysteries. About the Black Wall, rogue AIs and stuff like that. I personally want to watch some lore videos on YouTube, but I didn't watch the Cyberpunk anime, so I don't want to spoil myself. One thing I can say that the lore is intriguing. Now, story-wise, I think the game has a worthy story. Nothing too remarkable, but with the DLC I think the story is quite cool. It has some twists and some choice making. And now finally about the cons. As I said, the game also has some cons. Well, the biggest con is that the game is a little short. I completed the base game in 80 hours, which may sound a lot, but I actually cleared the whole map. The only thing that I didn't clear completely is the police department missions, and only because they're meh. In general, the game lacks side missions, which is strange because side missions were probably CD Projekt Red's strongest trait in The Witcher 3. So recently we're getting news that Cyberpunk is getting more updates, and maybe big DLCs with side missions, which is great. And all of this almost 5 years later. This is actually crazy and quite unexpected, but most definitely welcomed. Now, talking about the game being too short. Ironically, that's almost a compliment, because it means that the game is so good that the biggest issue of the game is that you want more. I had the same experience with Hogwarts Legacy, where I wanted more gameplay, when I finally learned all the spells but the game is almost finished. But I want more combat! Okay, I digress again. Now, the next issue that bothers me, and here I'm gonna address CD Projekt Red directly. Please, 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 add dual wielding for pistols. I want Johnny Silverhand's pistol in one hand and Archangel in the other. That's all I'm asking for. Please, maybe in the next DLC or if not in Cyberpunk 2. But please, we need dual wielding guns. I'm not asking for dual wielding assault rifles or sniper rifles, it would be silly, I know. But guns, that makes total sense. I mean Jackie dual wields guns. Ever since I saw it, I wanted it. I looked it up on internet how to do it, but to my disappointment, it is impossible. And no, we don't need to aim with 2 guns. It is okay if we won't be able to. It is a close range weapon. I never aimed with a gun anyway, because it is not cool and I can't aura farm. So, CDPR, if you hear me, we need it. And the last issue that we're gonna discuss is not a huge issue, but we're gonna do it anyway. Scaling. The enemies are scaling to your level and equipment. That almost makes the progression of the game unrewarding. Yes, because the game offers a large variety of playstyles, it still makes sense to do missions, level up and upgrade your equipment. However, it makes the progression not vertical but horizontal, which is not bad but definitely not great. Scaling in general is a very complicated topic, and I think if done right, scaling is one of the greatest instruments of the developers. However, not all NPCs must scale. Definitely not low-level NPCs, but for example bosses and to some extent mini-bosses. That way the progression is still rewarding and the game will still offer a challenge. Now, to conclude it all, I think that I have the most objective system of rating games. I rate games based on its potential. How far is the game from being perfect? What feature the game lacks? And what flaws could be removed? As you have seen, Cyberpunk 2077 isn't flawless, so I can't say that the game is 10 out of 10. However, I will say that the game is 9.5 out of 10. It is a must-play game. Now, that is it for now, but I have a lot of videos already on the channel, so you're welcome to check them out. For example, I did a similar video about Sekiro after 6 years, and so much more videos on different topics, so check them out and subscribe. See you later.